Abdoulaye connaît? Non, on fait le... Non, il a envoyé un texte. Il a envoyé un texte. Bon, nous, on modifie au fur et à mesure. Ouais. Ok? Ouais. Vous n'avez pas imprimé votre version?
Non, non, mais...
C'est après,
oui.
Ouais, allez-y, vous asseyez.
Parce que je m'attendais à hier, donc du coup j'étais en
Non,
train de remanier.
non, c'est pas parce qu'à cause de ce qui s'est passé hier, on a refait le programme. Voilà. Vous parlez de quoi normalement?
Très bien. Les suds du nord et la montée des périphéries.
Les périphéries.
Voilà.
Bon. Non, c'est pas... On n'est pas en train de comploter.
Très bien.
Bon, écoutez, si vous ne pouvez pas parler...
Je vais essayer d'être... de toute façon, je vais essayer d'être synthétique. Et je vais essayer
ça vous gêne.
J'aurais préféré que ça soit mieux structuré, puisque j'essaie de répondre aussi à certaines choses.
Fidèle, toi, vas-y. Viens, on va essayer de gérer ça.
Je viens là-bas.
Non, toi, tu es avec... tu t'assois, c'est le chef qui vous donne la parole.
Où est-ce que je m'assois?
Mais vous m'avez...
Je vais savoir comment la présentation, c'est PowerPoint. Je peux la projeter.
Ah, il faut voir avec l'électricité. Il faut avoir...
Bon, mesdames et messieurs, nous allons ouvrir la session consacrée à la gouvernance mondiale. S'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît. Celui-ci. Non, c'est ici. Ah, c'est dit. Donc on aura 4. D'accord. Bon, voilà. Je crois que nous pouvons commencer. En fait, cette session est consacrée à la gouvernance mondiale. Nous connaissons tous l'importance que Samir AMIN accordée à cette problématique. Merci. Mais avant de commencer, je voudrais attirer votre attention sur le fait que mon nom a été très mal orthographié. Dans mon nom, ce n'est pas Jacques Chibawa, c'est Jacques Chibois-Bois. Mais malheureusement, chaque fois que mon nom est inscrit quelque part en dehors de la RDC, il est toujours mal orthographié. Donc, c'est pas parce qu'il est très long ou extra long. Donc, corrigez, donc c'est Jacques Chibois-Bois, Koudichini. Donc, je viens donc de Kinshasa. En fait, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, notre session est consacrée à la gouvernance mondiale. Cette gouvernance dominée aujourd'hui par le capitalisme néolibéral. Et hier, je crois le professeur, je crois que j'ai noté son nom, Aziz Salmon Fall, a fait allusion à ce que Samir AMIN appelle les 5 privilèges impérialistes, parmi lesquels vous avez l'accès aux ressources naturelles des pays du tiers-monde par les puissances impériales. Et cet aspect de la problématique m'intéresse beaucoup parce que je vis dans un pays où, depuis 1996 au 96, les ressources naturelles sont systématiquement exploitées illégalement ou carrément pillées par les puissances impérialistes. Et les institutions qui assurent la gouvernance mondiale, au rang desquelles on peut citer le FMI, l'ONU, etc., ne font absolument rien devant toute cette exploitation illégale et les massacres qui accompagnent cette exploitation. Et comme l'a dit Salmon une fois de plus, on sait très bien que ces pillages de ressources naturelles violent la souveraineté des États africains, et en particulier de la RDC, dont les ressources peuvent aider le continent à aller de l'avant. Et donc, ce qui me paraît important à ce niveau, c'est que ces pillages de ressources naturelles d'un pays comme la RDC assurent le bonheur des puissances impérialistes qui s'arrangent, n'est-ce pas, pour ne pas mettre fin à ces pillages-là. Et ce qui me fait encore très mal, c'est que non seulement on est en face d'une hégémonie économique, géopolitique, etc., tout ça, mais cette hégémonie économique s'accompagne d'une domination karma épistémologique. Parce que tous les chercheurs congolais, moi-même j'en suis témoin, qui écrivent des articles et qui veulent les publier dans des revues savantes, surtout sur ces genres de problématiques, et qui critiquent ouvertement le FMI ou la Banque mondiale ou l'OMC en rapport avec les politiques minières qu'ils ont imposées aux États africains, eh bien, leurs articles sont systématiquement rejetés. Et souvent, les comités de rédaction de ces revues vous disent non, cet article est écrit dans un style journalistique, ce sont des formules magiques utilisées pour repousser l'article. Ou bien c'est un article qui ne respecte pas la ligne éditoriale de la revue ou la politique éditoriale. Donc finalement, la notion ou les notions de politique éditoriale ou autres sont utilisées.
Just mere incantations. The deconnection therefore promotes what I would call the consideration of a globalization based on negotiation and not submission to the interests established by imperialist monopolies. It promotes, he said, the redefinition of inequalities, international inequalities. What is the structuring factor and in terms of temporality that makes inevitable this deconstruction? To this strategic question, this is the answer he gives. The time gives us the historical moment to go much further. It therefore imposes us the only efficient answer, a radicalization, bold radicalization in the formulation of alternatives capable of getting the worker and the peoples on the offensive and put and to rout the strategy of wars that are waged on us. So yesterday, what did we know? It's not only a question of looking at the problem at our level, but we should do everything to ensure that the workers, the peasants, as I said a short while ago, the social movements include and understand the stakes in the world. Why is it that in the historical period, the need to redefine and rethink the relations between us and which have been imposed on us over centuries and teaches us to reverse the situation for the benefit of our peoples, our wives, our women, who constitute for Samir, the new historical subject. I think it is important to underscore this. Now, for him, there are other questions also that need to be considered. The question, and that's the last question in these proposals, as Nenina in his time, what should we do? So it's like Samir asking, what should we do once we have these issues before us? They call for the following developments. And let me, of course, quote Samir. We need to define precisely through the questioning of the 5 privileges of contemporary imperialism. The foreign countries are erected on this path and committed with more or less, let me use the word, concentration. That is the attempt to co-opt the most subjected peoples of these countries through the G20 group has shown its limits. And this is what the emerging countries have done. We saw yesterday what were the limits of this proposal. So the boldness teaches us to engage on this path with coherence and a lot of commitment by authorizing the measures of deconnection, which involves more prestigious advances. The objective is this radicalization and is triple and includes the determination of the community, social progress, and anti-imperialist positions. We have to look at this as being possible not only within the scope of emerging countries, but the countries of the South. The deconnection of countries of the South, taken by the deconnection of the imperialist system in place. Now, I have 20 minutes. We can read the text later. Let me end on this first part to say the following. What does that prepare? It also prepares the deconnection of countries which are in the center. So Samir Amin doesn't just think of Africa, but the world from the standpoint of Africa. So what the internationalism of peoples is, and I explained this in my last work, for the situation of mankind, by saying that he didn't just content himself in talking about Marxism, socialism, and so on. He saw how that happened in Africa, and from Africa, he proposes that Africans should not be, rolled back on themselves, and the peoples, whether they are from the north or the south, put their efforts together to overcome the system that we are struggling against. And at Porto Alegre, Samir Amin, our friend, said it. That is Samir Amin, who thought that Africa cannot get isolated from the world, and by taking support from all the peoples and all the movements, understand that elsewhere in the center there are problems. Give me a few minutes. When I published my work on modernity, the answer or reaction that I had, the problem of modernity in our countries is that we haven't entered our history, but we are the history. Africa is in fact the bedrock of our society. The black civilization in Egypt, we are also the history. And in 1995, I was there in Egypt when we were doing the summit on the social forum, and Mubarak said, "I'm happy to welcome you in, of course, Egypt." That is the stronghold of African history and African black knowledge. And the President of the Republic said, "We are on an African terrain," which is in fact the stronghold of history, which means Samir Amin, yes, we called him the intellectual, yes, could not be indifferent to what was happening in relation to what we know today. We said that, yes, he was an Egyptian intellectual, but we can also say, as he said in Africa, ex-Africa, Peru, ex-Libido. Yesterday we saw Samir Amin, and later on we saw Che Anta and many others. So there are reasons to think that we are not less lodged in the modernity, and this is why I'll go quickly. I have 5 minutes. Let me just say this. Those who talked about Frantz Fanon said that what we have to remember in the Algerian struggle is that Africa has to unite. What we bear in mind with regard to Samir Amin, Africa has to unite. What we bear in mind in Share with regard to share antidote, who talked about the federal state for Africa, that we should work together for a global perspective. And of course, Nkrumah passed there, and also Dubois, that is those who were part of Pan-Africanism, were all part of this trends. The visionaries, whether they are politicians or intellectuals, had only one single thought: Africa should unite, and all the problems that our children who die on the high seas of the Mediterranean, and they die because they feel completely hopeless, despair, and when they have to cope with mastodons like the United States and major entities, if we do not get things going, then we are called upon to perish. And I think that is the element that we need to retain. We should agree to say that we cannot make it with regard to the current system, what Marshall merchant logic states, actually, but rather, groups of states to create this togetherness for which we are working, the United States of Africa. But of course, we are told, look, you should not lose sight of the human element, and I think that's important. Yesterday, everything we said about Samir, AMIN, which was very interesting, was the human and humanistic aspect. We had this strong feeling, and this is what we heard again yesterday, that is human values. Human values. We just don't do that for a joke. This human warmth should not only come from Senegal, where we have the teranga, that is hospitality, but also elsewhere. You see, when I was a student, I asked people, how do you cope with all this demand? And he said, my father, who used to say that when there is something for one, we have that same thing for all. So everybody should come to the table. The parental communism that we have is not what we think. It's not a problem when we share. I think that you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to wrap it up. We are talking about management. Our management should involve management for humanity, and understand that we have needs and we need to share. I come from a country where I think that for, of course, milk and honey, what is important is how to share it. If we share in Gabon, we will be, in fact, the laughing faces of our people. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for having respected the time. Please, epistemological voluntarism is important, and all the institutions that Samir, AMIN created thought about the need to share. Let's move on to the second speaker. Yes, Ancesi Robert, you have, if you like, we'll give you 15 minutes because we don't have enough time. Sorry.
Je préfère rester au boulot parce que je suis petite et derrière ces pupitres on ne voit que le micro et des mains qui s'agitent comme ça. Donc là je pense qu'on me verra mieux. Tout d'abord, merci beaucoup aux organisateurs pour cette formidable événement en hommage à Samir, AMIN, et merci de me donner juste quelques minutes dont je ne vais pas abuser sous l'autorité du président. Donc, vous le savez, Samir, AMIN était un collaborateur régulier du monde diplomatique. Il a beaucoup écrit dans le domaine diplomatique depuis les années 70 et il est l'un des contributeurs de notre manuel critique d'économie dont je voudrais vous parler, pas pour faire de la publicité parce qu'on en a une affiche, mais pour souligner un point qui me semble intéressant pour notre discussion, c'est ce qu'on pourrait appeler le libéralisme économique dans nos têtes. C'est-à-dire le libéralisme économique qui se loge dans nos têtes peut-être à notre insu et qu'il faudrait donc essayer de débusquer. Pour mémoire, le monde diplomatique a fait campagne dès le départ contre l'ajustement structurel. On a été très tôt contre l'ajustement structurel en donnant la parole à des gens comme Samir et à d'autres économistes venus du Sud. Et en 1988, on a publié un ouvrage qui nous a beaucoup été reproché et qui s'appelait « Le libéralisme contre les libertés », où on expliquait que ce libéralisme économique qui s'impose au nom de la liberté va en fait tuer la liberté, en particulier la liberté des plus pauvres et des plus faibles. Ce qui me semble intéressant de souligner aujourd'hui, et certains intervenants l'ont dit, c'est que nous nous trouvons en 2020 à un moment de crise de la mondialisation économique en tant que projet idéologique. Et ça nous crée une possibilité, une ouverture.
And this will create an area. When I talk about ideological crisis of globalization, I allude to the fact that we have in the heart of the empire in the United States a president that is a little bit mad and denounced free trade and liberalism. Now, of course, to host the interest of the United States, of course, it is at the interest of the Americans. But what is interesting is that at the core of their empire, they produce a counter speech. So, in this area that is open will provide us a possibility to invest ourselves and promote our own ideas. Because, of course, if there is a crisis of liberal globalization as ideological project on the African continent, we will see the extreme violence of the free trade and liberalism, and namely the harmful role played by the European Union and in the way we impose economic liberalism and free trade in the African continent. And I think that it's Musa Demba that characterized neoliberalism as a drug that kills for the African continent. And let me come back to an essential point, which is if neoliberalism is denounced, if it is criticized, if it is in crisis, unfortunately it is vivid in our heads. And the dominating thinkers will continue to promote these ideas as if nothing happened, while we have seen the free trade and neoliberalism has registered failure because the IMF has recognized some years ago the harsh failure of structural adjustment, but not unfortunately the change policy to continue the same policy under other names while changing the names. This is what I call liberalism in the head. That is to say, we change names but we continue the same policy. Today, the neoliberal policy are called program to fight against poverty. But with that, we continue to privatize and we continue to indulge in free trade and we continue with the drugs that kill. One of the questions I wanted to share, and I would like to have your opinion, is how you as African intellectuals, as African economists, for most of you, how do you consider the project of CFTA? I consider it as the pursuit of neoliberalism, of those drugs that kill. And I have heard, maybe I didn't understand well, I have heard the interveners explain to us that the CFTA could be lucky, the continent would be lucky to have the CFTA. But I can't see how the free trade could, and taking into account the great inequalities that exist in the African continent, produce a positive effect that they haven't produced elsewhere. So, this gentleman is wearing new clothes of neoliberalism that might, as Nicole said it, be disguised in big words. The French president, we are sorry, but he will be there for 3 years. We try to kick him out, but that won't be easy. But he himself talked about Pan-Africanism. And all that is there to justify the French Pan-Africanism. And they talk about CFA. And it will continue under the form, the monetary imperialism of France. So this is to make you aware of liberalism in your head, that we have produced a counter-manual of critical liberalism that destroy all the project of neoliberal economics with the contribution of Samir, of course, and we destroy 2 to 3 fundamental ideas
settle the neoliberalism in Africa, the first idea, we are told that economics is a science, it's not true, or if it is a science, it is a political one. We see it with the use of figures. The economics since 1950, the dominating economy is impregnated by figures. But who will tell us how these figures have been made? For example, the GNP. We are told about the GDP, but as Robert Kennedy said it, the GDP will measure everything except what makes the life interesting. It measures the wealth, but not the social inequalities. And while every day, on behalf of scientific things, we have before our eyes GDP. So there is an ideological usage of the figures. And as you know, the Nobel Economic Prize has been delivered by a bank, and the Sweden Bank. But how many received ideas? Economics is not a science, it is a policy. Second idea is to be destructed. The dominating economy will make us understand what is the reality. And they said that I am the realism, and yesterday somebody held a speech about realism. This belongs to the right. The neoliberal one is not a reality, it's a political narration which make us think that it is a planet to village by using niches and comparative advantages. Now this has never worked everywhere. The so-called Asian dragon get out of it by making protectionism and declaring the war with the European Union. And yesterday Jacques Bortolo said something about that, about the common agricultural policy. And we fix the price, and we tax the import, and we subsidize the peasant, and all that the European Union will forbid Africa to do that. This is imperialism. And there are some words of Thomas Sankara in that. So the dominating neoliberal economics is not a reality. It is a narration destined to sit and to settle the domination of the North and the South, the domination of capitalism. Third idea to be dismantled, it is the idea that the world should be complicated and complex. Now, when you read Samir, you will understand that it is extremely simple. There are rich, there are poor people, and there are people that colonize. The World Bank, the Monetary Fund are there to impose some standards. So the point raised by Sharif a moment ago, the way the international institution, financial institution, have been a tool to continue the colonization of Africa through other means, it is sometimes some very simple on condition that, as Samir usually says, to carry out the analysis and to look into the ratio of strengths. So the financial institution use forces, and the relay in Africa are the spokesmen. Other receive the ideas also to be destructed. It is that idea that there will be only liberal economics, and that the other school of thought will not exist anymore. The modernity, the extreme modernity will be to be an ultra-liberal. It is an ideology, and Samir has held it tight when we try to make people understand that the analysis belong to the past. He, on the contrary, showed that they are up to date, and the interest is there to be here to listen to you. The interest of this type of symposium is to show that there is another thinking, that it is vivid and coming from the South. And those who talk to us and impose us the drugs that kills, do not do it because they don't have any more the political strength. I think that our friends of money have understood now the military forces to understand the capitalistic order. So these type of symposium, people might say, yes, after all, what is the use of discussing when one should be concrete? Of course we need to be concrete, but at the same time to act without thinking, is it interesting? It seems to me that if we want to be concrete, we need to think, to ponder over it, to be quite clear on the ideas, on the analysis of things, on the relationships between strength, and have come back on the role the state should play on the economic transaction beyond the neoliberal restrictions. Let's go now to the third interveners. I think it is Umu Khairinya. I don't know whether she's there. She's there. Madam, you have 15 minutes to give us your presentation. Deliver your presentation. Thank you.
We have changed the constitution now. So good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. We want to thank the organizers. Of course, Sheriff, thank you for this major meeting. The subject of my intervention is gender, a very important stake in negotiation and, of course, connection. It treats of the theory of gender dedicated to Professor Samir, AMIN, and to a large extent pay tribute to him with regard to the dimension of his perpetual struggle of this intellectual who is committed to social justice and inequality between countries and nations in a world where the rules of capitalism breeds inequality between people and sanctioned by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Over and above questioning the prejudice against dominated countries, the issues in Africa which need to be deepened. We have a rich production by some research organizations like FATUSO, Godubop, and so on. And so we have a large scale of writings, and if the students want to deepen the issue, that would be the right time to do so. And so gender aims at equitable development. I don't want to emphasize that, but I'll go straight to the last point to save time. Why is gender, well, that is gender in the struggle. The concept of gender defines the responsibility of men and women as policymakers and partners. It, of course, emphasizes power relations that lead to the unequal distribution of resources between men and women. And so it makes an analysis of social relationships. We cannot claim that there are disparities if we haven't, of course, studied the context of intervention. And what gender wants is to transform the social and institutional structures which are discriminatory, and by setting up and promoting structures which are equal and just and which respect the aims of social justice. I have 5 minutes, I'm told. So, just as gender wants to promote the participation of women and promote a prospect of transformation, in the same way Samir AMIN proposes in his theory of deconnection the possibility of development productive forces and at the same time strengthen social trends by reducing social inequalities, especially between the cities and the rural area, by, of course, creating productive forces and real democratic social forces. So to conclude, it is necessary that in the prospect of gender analysis, if we have the possibility of articulating it and linking it to the theory of deconnection, we'd have to look at the paradox that women are auxiliary, but they are very important with regard to the rules in all our society, and retain that our traditional societies put women at the head of empires, Fatuso and others. I have a few examples who wrote about political women or women with political mind. So we should always look at things between democracy and equality between people, countries, and so on. And this is inevitable. Thank you, madam. Thank you for recalling a very important if you envisage automation, you should think of types of automation, understand the historical data, identify the processes that depend on automation, because you are not compliant to do a complete automation, you can do a partial or total automation, and therefore plunging into automation means that you should understand the stakeholders and the level of course, optimization and so on, and identify the solution in diversity, because today we have a lot of solutions. You have the choice between several solutions that are proposed, and if you choose the right the processes, you have to map out. Yes, mapping the process is very, very important to know the entities and link them one to the other to understand the KPI, that is the key performance indicator. Every person has a performance, and you should be able to measure the performance of people, especially when we are in the same logic. And an enterprise needs persons of different qualities and different levels of understanding. Conclusion now, please. I'm already at the conclusion. So to conclude, I want to say that I want to invite African students to get interested in this subject, which is digitalization and artificial intelligence. It's a process that is already on the move, and we don't need to, of course, fall behind. And I'm going to talk to students in Dakar to set up consultants with regard to artificial intelligence. We want to set up consultants on the continent, but starting with Dakar, and each year we can come and see them each year. Thank you for your attention. Thank you so much. But be careful. Don't, of course, be careful about a lot of applauses, because they don't necessarily throw flowers at you. Thank you, Abdullah Community, for the communication. Let's now move on to the second part of our session. We'll start with Marema Toure.
Il est très jeune. Samir, les derniers temps, c'est...
Samir, in his last years, was really interested in the artificial intelligence, but we had a very important work to do with documents that were very difficult to recuperate. That is to say, all of his courses in Morocco and his teaching in Dakar, also indulging in that on the screening, and can tell you everything that is wrong in the net as photo and text. We have tools that cost about 7,000 euros, and these are young people that accompany me in this type of thing. Now the time is short and we cannot have thought about the economic consequences of structural adjustment, but what it has brought in terms of adjustment of values that are moving away, because it is merchandization of the thing and mercantilization of the social relation. I think that another thing on structural adjustment is about the horizon. Personally, I establish the parallel between the adjustment of horizon and our young people talking about Barsa or Barsakh. That is to say, those people who take the boat and go by the sea. And Salmon was talking about the project of the Forum of the World to be transformed in foundation and work on the young people. I think that what we have to do, I think that we have to reinvent the ideology and put it in a good sense. So what you have said is that the ideology exists, and ideology is the entry said I would take 1 minute more because here it is the only area where we discuss about gender. I think that it didn't occur here in Porto, and you ask me 1 more minute to accept it. Now, maybe I would seem to be insolent vis-a-vis Samir, but I'm used to express my this nature. Now, I was a member of Kodesre. I'm Fatou Sow. I'm a sociologist, and I'm a member of the scientific committee of this meeting. In 1993, during the 20th anniversary of the foundation of Kodesre, Samir AMIN made a great speech, and we were there, all of us, men and women, very open to his speech. You know, it's always a scientific speech, and at a given time he said, you have these new concepts that end with ism and Islamic concept, and then he said feminism. And I jumped from my chair, and I felt so insulted, and I was trying to say that I am a feminist, but I wanted to decolonize it and put it at the height of aspiration and my question, and that my great scientist, and I was condemned to be outdated, and I hope that this has hurt me. And I attended another conference some days ago, and of course somebody who was sitting next to me said that we had some big scientists like Samir AMIN, and the gentleman said he expressed himself for 1 hour to answer my question. I said that to say that the speech and the speech of Samir AMIN was not feminist. Samir AMIN didn't talk to women, but we have found a great strength in what he has demonstrated in talking about globalization, inequality, economies. Because Samir has allowed us to think about globalization, inequality between the state, third worldism, etc. And from Africa. Samir has been for us a source and an incredible strength to find some elements, because we have found in him somebody who from Africa, he was an African, will allow us to go back to sources that were very useful for us. And everything that one might say about the liberal economics and its impact and inequalities, we were going to be confident from the fact that we try to decolonize Islam and to try to make people understand that without being attached to any sources, we
Well, I would like, if I understood, we can say that there are almost 3 questions. The first question on deconnection is my colleague facing me who talked about it. When we talk about disconnections, we read and we do what we call the epistemology of deconnection. I read Samir AMIN and I stick to what he has said. We sit and work. I cannot answer your question. We read Samir AMIN together and we are saying whether he was right or not. Second, the person who talked about Gabon by saying that he was in Gabon in 1989. Now, if you followed my proposal, I said I was 3 years in prison because I didn't agree with what was going on. I was clear with regard to my position, so that has to be clear. Thirdly, the last question, what do we do? I think Speaker Marema said that, and I want to respond. Samir raises the question as to what do we do, and my answer is that every Marxist analysis has to be concrete, and he says this is what we can do. If we didn't understand the exposition, we will continue discussing, but this question is very interesting and we can expand it later. Thank you. And Cecile, you have the floor. Well, I understood your intervention. I was talking about economic liberalism, not political liberalism. That wasn't my subject. So I was undertaking a critique of economic liberalism. I'm a socialist and I find my feet in socialism. And I think liberalism considers a human being as an economic being. And I'm a socialist, and therefore I think that human beings have other things, or motivated by other things rather than economic